Let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of acquiring property subject to existing loans using different structures, starting with wrap financing.
Right.
What are the advantages and disadvantages of wrap financing?
Well, a wrap when you're buying is a subject to, whereas a straight subject to, the seller just deeds it over to you, and the seller's SOL if you don't pay his loan. He has no recourse. It's like husband and wife in a divorce. They do it every day of the week, where husband deeds his property to wife under a divorce settlement, and then the wife says, I'll pay it off within 2 years, and then after 6 months stops paying. The husband's out of luck, and his name's mortgage loan. Taking subject to versus a wrapper loan is you take subject to, but you give the seller a note and second,
correct,
called all-inclusive mortgage or trust deed. And the reason it's all-inclusive is it includes the underlying mortgage. So if the underlying mortgage is 100 and you wrap 100 around it, there's not 200 in liens. The 100 second includes the 100 first.
Exactly.
It's only 100 in liens. That's why we call it all-inclusive. But basically, it's a second lien. So if the buyer doesn't pay, the seller can foreclose and get the property back. In the meantime, he's got to make the payments on the underlying loan to preserve his credit while he's foreclosing. So that's, in a sense, it's a little fairer for sellers compared to a subject to. Usually I'm representing buyers on those, so fairness to the seller is not my primary concern. But, I don't want to overreach, but, some attorneys will say you should always do that because judges will view it poorly if you don't. And I haven't had that experience, but there's a particular problem with that in Colorado, why I advise against that. And the reason is, to release a deed of trust in Colorado, we don't have private trustees. We have a county official called a public trustee in every county. So they're the trustee of the deed of trust. They require the original note marked paid to release. They'll give it back to you, but you have to mail it in physically or post a bond, which is really expensive to get if you've lost it. So now you took subject to from someone, gave them a second wrap, and 5 years later, you can't find the person, or that you found them and they can't find the original note. You see the challenge here. So that's a more likely scenario than the buyer defaulting and seller wanting to foreclose. So in Colorado, I just say I advise against it if you're a buyer. But in most states, I have really no problem with the all-inclusive trust deed.